guarantees had to do with Armenia and not Nagorno-Karabakh. So a lot of Armenians died, a lot of churches, ancient churches, were absolutely destroyed and bombed. And the Azeris engaged in the ethnic cleansing of ethnic Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh. They were forced out if they weren't killed. And some of them ended up in Armenia, and Armenia, of course, is going to take them in. But it's been really difficult because Armenia is a tiny country. It's a developing country. It's landlocked and it's surrounded by enemies, and historically has been victimized by Turkey through the Armenian genocide. I mean, it's been pretty devastating, and it's, I've been very vocal about what's been happening in Gaza, and Armenians have been very proud of me for that. But a few have been like, why didn't you speak up about Nagorno-Karabakh? I did. I did actually at the time, but it happened 4 years ago.
Why aren't the preachers talking about it? So churches were blown up?
Yeah, and by the way, I mean, religious...
Did you know about this topic?
Oh yeah, I lived in Little Armenia for a decade, so my meat market was literally called the Karabakh. So I know about the area very intimately, to be honest.
Yeah,
Plus,
I'm looking at there's a call it,
politics in the area.
the Armenians call it attack. They call it Nagorno-Karabakh in Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
the area is the area is non-contiguous to Armenian territory. It's an enclave inside, landlocked inside mainland Azerbaijan.
yeah, but if you look at the map too, you'll see that Azerbaijan has a similar autonomous area at the bottom of
I know.
Armenia. In between,
It's called.
it's like a weird trade-off. It's like this is where I don't side with the Armenians. Normally I do, but for this particular reason, I don't. It's something that I would take the bottom of my country back and give that satellite away, and feel completely autonomous to my neighbors. But that's just me.
Yeah,
You know?
but do you think you're referring to the Nakhchivan enclave on the border with Turkey? Are you saying that Armenia have equal power to give up that land to take Nakhchivan?
Well, I will say that when the Azeris were when the Armenians were cutting off supplies to Karabakh, the Azeris didn't cut off their conduit to their area. At the bottom, it's just it's a weird. It's a local politic thing, man. I don't know a better way of putting it, and I don't think.
So why do
think
you?
it's for outsiders, is what I'm getting at.
All right. So basically,
Like,
you're
we can
saying
talk about this figuratively, but I just don't.
no. We can talk about it because I know the map. I'm looking at the map right now. It's a topic that I've discussed myself because you say you know about the area. That's why I
Yeah,
wanted to
no,
ask you because
really
for
well,
different reasons there is some centripetal and centrifugal factors to this. One of it is the role of Turkey, and we can talk about the role of outside actors. But Nakhchivan is important to Azerbaijan, and Nagorno-Karabakh, for some weird reason, I don't know why Armenia is trying to hold on to that territory, which is stupid in my opinion.
Well, you
Um,
have to understand about the Turkmen people and just so the areas in general, like from Turkey, and I mean this literally from Turkey all the way across to China. There is a sliver of a civilization that has grown together that are literally blood related.
yeah,
You know,
that brings me to my
but they're so
brings
vastly different from one another, though.
yeah,
It's a
but
trip.
that brings me to my second point. Armenia, the presence of Armenia in the region pose a threat to the reenactment of the Turkic or an enactment of some kind of Turkic economic and cultural zone, which is related to what they call the Zangezur corridor. Are you familiar with the Zangezur corridor? So the Zangezur
I
corridor,
would assume that's the corridor that's connecting
Aliyev,
Nagorno-Karabakh to Armenia.
it's not
No?
Nagorno-Karabakh. So if you take a look at the map, Armenia runs from north to south, the border
Yeah.
on Georgia, all the way to the south, on the border
Georgia
with,
to the
with
north.
Iran, all
Yeah.
the way to the south with the border with Iran, the 44-kilometer corridor in the south. And then there you have the province of Nakhchivan, which is non-contiguous to Azerbaijan proper, or controlled by Azerbaijan. And you have gas running from Azerbaijan that goes through Armenia, and even the transport system goes through Armenia
Technically, actually,
to
it doesn't
to
go through Armenia.
yeah, let me finish, to Nakhchivan, to the border with Turkey, So economically, they are dependent on Nakhchivan. I'm talking about Azerbaijan. But what they want to do right now is to, number one, expel their Armenians from Nagorno-Karabakh completely. And secondly, go down to the south, the tiny corridor between Iran and Armenia, to cut off Armenia completely from having any border with Iran, in order to create a corridor, a tiny corridor there, where it will not be under the control of Armenia. But because right now every supply goes through Armenia, and Armenia imposed custom, checkpoints and all of that, they want all of that gone. And this is a plan after the second Nagorno-Karabakh war that was put in place by Aliyev, the president of Azerbaijan in Baku, and the Turkish president Recep Tayyip Erdogan. And for the Turks, they want to position themselves to be a leader of the Turkic countries and also connect with their cousins, even in the South Caucasus, across the Caspian Sea, to Central Asian countries like you mentioned. These are all Turkic people.
Well,
So
I was impressed that you know about this. Not so many people do.
no, I mean, because you
Like,
never
this
talk,
is a
because you
chunk of the
never,
world that most people don't talk about.
most people don't know about any of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the,
Yeah,
the thing,
exactly.
the thing is that, like, a lot of people don't talk to me. They come on my panel and just want to, like, get some steam out. Yeah, this is a topic that I know about very well. And you also have to understand that it's also the economic interest playing out, because China is building One Belt One Road initiative that goes through Iran. So that Iranian corridor goes through that 44-kilometer Armenian border, goes through Georgia, all the way to the Russians are trying to connect it with South Ossetia, which is a province that they fought over with Georgia, if you remember, during the war in 2000.
Yeah, I have
2008.
I know people from there. I have clients from there. Put it that way.
Yeah, I know. This was when Dmitry Medvedev was president. I know about Eurasian politics very, very well.
I just
So-
heard that Odessa was a nice area, nice beach town.
Yeah, Odessa is on the Black Sea as well. So, but they're trying to build this corridor. The Chinese are trying to build a corridor, not through the Caspian, but through that Armenian land, through East Azerbaijan, which is a province in Iran.
Train track. It's a
A
train
train
track.
line,
Yeah.
a train line that goes north all the way through Armenia, that goes through the Black Sea to connect Europe, which is one access to the corridor. Another access is through Iran, goes through Iraq, goes through Syria to the Eastern Med. That corridor now is closed, because not closed, but there is problematic now because, number one, Iraq is not completely sovereign. Syria has just been broken up and continues to be broken up. So that is the only other alternative now that Iran has in order to be able to tap in from this economic project that the Chinese are building. And this is why it is in Iran's interest to work in synergy with Armenia. And Azerbaijan wants to close that corridor so that China can build another route through the Central Asian countries and use the Caspian Sea, use Armenia use Azerbaijan as a hub, and use that corridor through South Armenia that they are trying to create the Zangezur corridor. It's a very complex. I mean, if I have the map on the board, I could explain and elucidate my points better for you to
The
understand.
politics are equally complex because you also have the Russians. It's like, okay, so Russia and Iran were good, but they need Armenia as a connector.
Yes.
Azerbaijan and Russia are also good because Armenia, Azerbaijan, I think Uzbekistan, and one or two of the other stands are Kazakhstan and one other one, I think, all part of that federation, Russia's version of NATO. So when Armenia and Azerbaijan went fighting, they both went to Russia and said, "Hey, can you negotiate?" And Russia was like, "Well, here's weapons," and gave
Yeah,
both sides
yeah, and
weapons.
it's not in Russia's best interest for the destabilization of the South Caucasus, because that is the soft underbelly of Russia for so many reasons. The last thing that Russia wants right now is the presence of NATO in the Caspian. No. It's like a no. That will lead to, it's just like it's similar to the situation in Ukraine. You guys have to understand, particularly those of them in the West that just babbling, oh, Russia, they don't understand shit. Russia is a big country, but it has a lot of geographical constraints. Now the Russians have been,
Muslims in Russia.
Yeah,
Lots of Muslims in Russia.
that's not even the issue. geographical
No, I'm
constraints.
just pointing out that
Yeah, a lot of
very
Turkic
strong
Turkic
in Russia.
a lot of Turkic people that are Muslims, mostly in the South Caucasus and on the border with Mongolia, like the what do you call them, the in the Taiga. I think in the south of the Taiga.
Dagestan and Ingushetia.
No, that's in the Caucasus. Yeah, Ingushetia, Abkhazia, South Ossetia, Chechnya, Dagestan. I saw the war, the Chechen war, and I saw a lot of the foreign fighters that were flooding in from Central Asia. Turkey participated in that. America took advantage and loaded a lot of these foreign fighters that fought on the side of Shamil Basayev during the war until
Not gonna argue
Putin
that.
went in during the Second Chechen War and smashed them. It had enough. They basically destroyed Grozny to rubble. No single building was standing in Grozny, and everything was rebuilt. And now because they brought in the
No, they did that in 3 months.
yeah,
That
they
was
did it in
that was from December of '94 to I think March.
that was the first Chechen War. During the Second
No,
Chechen
that
War,
was the second one. The first one was in '91. Russia came back into the second one.
I'm talking about 2000. I'm talking about between 2000 and 2002. You can check that out.
After the bombing.
No, I'm talking about the Second Chechen War. Was
Yeah,
in two.
after the assassination and the guy that's in power now was
His father.
fighting. Yeah,
No, his father. What's his name?
I can picture him, but I don't know his name.
No, I know him. I know him. He was a very young guy. After they took out his father, he now became president at age 20 something.
He's really big with MMA.
Yeah, he loves MMA. He brings in a lot of these guys from to
Well, there's a
compete.
traditional style of wrestling that they have in that area that sort of helps them out with MMA.
Yeah, because the Soviets invested a lot in sports and built all these gymnasiums in the South Caucasus and across Russia, and that helps them a lot. I mean, look at that region; it's a very hostile region. So a lot of the young people turn to sport, and this is why they have a lot of good fighters because they do judo, and they do a
Yeah.
bit of Greco-Roman. Look, my knowledge is in so many areas in sports and so many ways. So I'm able to I have an idea
healthy
of what you
thing.
talk. Yeah. Razman Kadyrov, his father is I forgot the name of the first name, but the Kadyrov, and they have a strong army of the Kadyrovites.
Yeah, I don't know how the son.
Ahmad Kadyrov was the father, and Ramzan Kadyrov is the son. The guy in power today is Ramzan Kadyrov.
They're weirdly traditional in that part of the world.
Yeah, they're very
Like-
traditional, and they are like conservative. They don't joke around. The Chechens don't play around.
Conservatives light, man. They're almost militaristic with being conservative. Like,
Yeah.
like women are not allowed to travel by themselves through that area by their rules. That they have to hire a handler because they can't guarantee their safety.
Yeah,
It's like wild east, dude. The wild east, man.
yeah. Makashkala. He's I think his son now they are bigging up his son to become the leader because there was a point where we had reports he wanted to resign or whatever. He was ill and so on and so forth. Yeah, Ahmad Kadyrov was the father. And by the way, some of these fighters, some of them surfaced in Syria. When I saw them in Syria, I wasn't surprised. I knew because I have been doing this or learning about a lot of these things since I was 14. So most of this name I was already familiar with them. And there's this guy called Tarkan Batirashvili that surfaced in Syria around 2015 or thereabout. The guy was in Chechnya. He is a Georgian police officer or something like that. So when he came to Syria, he led a group called Jaish al-Muhajirun wal Ansar, meaning the army of immigrants and their helpers. And the Russians know this for a fact that during the war in Chechnya, it was Turkey. And we saw their hand again during the war in Syria. Turkey somehow positions itself as the leader of this Turkey group of nations, and to the extent that they have an outreach all the way to Xinjiang province in China. And people asking why the Chinese are opening up these re-education centers, in quotes, is because that place is very, very volatile. Xinjiang, if you look at the map, for the Chinese project and that's the biggest province in China. I'm not sure you know about that.
Desert.
It's
Desert.
yeah, it's a barren land, but it's very strategically important because it connects with Tibet Autonomous Region, which is also
Well,
another
it's connected
flashpoint.
the east to the west for 10 plus thousand years. I
Yeah,
mean,
it connects the east to the west,
no, I mean,
and that corridor as well connects to the
I
one
think that's
belt
why
one.
China's so hell bent on that train.
Oh my God, like
They
that
want to
area,
connect to Europe. They want to
that
connect to
that
Europe. By
like if you are a president of China, you have like four policies, top key policies. Security of that area is on your list. So basically, they are trying to build a corridor through that place. They have two options because Afghanistan was under the boots of the Americans for a very long time, but now they handed it over to China. So China is trying to load them with a lot of money, building railway line, connect to Central Asia to come out through the Caspian and another corridor as well. They're trying to build that through to Balochistan, through the port of Balochistan in Pakistan, to also connect with Iran all the way to like I said, Armenia and through the Black Sea. So China is hell bent on that area. So some of these guys there are Turkic people as well. The Uyghurs are Turkic people. People don't understand that they are, and they are well, like culturally connected to Turkey and other Central Asian countries. So about 5,000 of their fighters surfaced in Syria, and the Chinese were like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" So people don't understand. It's a very strange place, but the politics of that place is very, very important for us to understand. And it's not just about the Middle East and Western Europe and all of that. Central Asia is also very important for China, for Russia, for the Americans, for Iran. I mean, if you control Iran, Iran is the land bridge between the East and the West. And this is why they play in the politics of, hang on a second, Iran is causing us a lot of problem. So politically, strategically, Iran is very important. So America making all this noise about, nuclear weapons, people don't understand it's about the politics. And Iran
Yeah.
trying to be independent is not going to work. Sorry.
The realistic, because most people don't talk about this area. Iran's the glue to that whole area, like Tajikistan, Turkmenistan. I mean, like Turkmenbashi, dude. You take the chain off of him, God, I don't even know what he would do. That guy is
It's
that guy's
crazy.
a trip. Yeah, dude, that guy's a trip. But it's just like if you remove Iran from the picture, all those people now have incentive to build their own thing, and they're going to start fighting, and it's just going to be chaos.
Yeah.
I can just see it. I can just see it. It will be chaos. So like you can't get rid of Iran right now. No matter how much you want to, you can't do it.
Yeah, it's going to destabilize the whole area. I
Exactly.
mean,
It's like
yeah,
it's a geopolitical chess piece that most people just don't realize how, because there's 400 plus ghost
million.
ships putting that oil out to whatever customers Iran's still selling to. They're going to still buy that oil. It doesn't matter. So
Yeah.
it's just like whether Iran's there or not, that oil's still going to be purchased. It's still going. It just if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's the old adage. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, and the idea that Iran, these mullahs there, we just bomb them and take them. I saw this video from Tucker Carlson, and he had this interview with what's the name of the senator again from Texas? Yeah, Neil
Are you
Conga,
talking about
Ted Cruz.
Cruz?
Yes,
Cruz.
yes, and Tucker asked him about the population of Iran. No idea. He asked him about the demographic configuration in Iran in terms of the demographic configuration, if that makes any sense. No idea. No knowledge about the politics of Iran. He only knows the Ayatollah, and he knows that Iran is a bad country because Israel said so. Look, it's not. I understand politics, right? And I understand that the Israelis are also looking out for their own interest. But the fact that these American guys, some of your best congressmen, lawmakers, are so dense in the head that they have no idea whatsoever. These guys went to Iraq without knowing the difference between the Sunnis and Shia. then who the hell is making the decision? According to your constitution, I heard that Congress have the power to prosecute wars, if I'm not mistaken. That the president can also invoke some, powers for 90 days or thereabout. I don't know the whole stuff, but the fact that some of the top guys in your Congress have zero idea, and he went on to say, well, this is a biblical conviction that whoever blesses Israel. I mean, if I was a senator in America, I would probably be supporting Israel.
You lost me for a
I will probably be supporting Israel,
Talking about the
but I should have some. But I should have some knowledge, right? So the guy went on and said, well, I used to go to Sunday school, and they taught us that if you curse Israel, you'll be cursed, and he who blessed. And the talker went on and said, what verse in the Bible? And, no idea. What the hell are these guys? They're hiding in Congress.
I saw the interview. Tucker pressed him pretty hard. I mean, you have to understand, dude. This guy, this wonderful, great senator, he abandoned his area when they were going through a blizzard and went to like Cabo or Cancun or something like that with the family.
Yeah.
Flew out with a helicopter and said, all right, let them deal with it. Only came back when people were like, wait a minute, you're not here helping? Then he flew back. It's like, all right, guys, all tan and shit. And, like, I'm here to help you guys through the blizzard.
Yeah, but I guarantee you he'll be reelected because he has the backing of AIPAC. He has a lot of money. I mean, who's going to kick him out? I don't know.
He's a career politician. So, like, I grew up with a career politician in my area. I don't mind saying his name. A guy by the name of Buck McKeon ended up being Congressman McKeon. When I was in high school, he went to my government class and broke down the system of getting into government, and it was about who you knew, and how well you were liked. It had nothing to do with what you were going to do for your people. It was how you could navigate Washington.
There's a gatekeeping process that will let you in.
Yeah, dude, it's just like they get elected in on the backs of normal human beings, and then they take the money from those normal human beings and work against those human beings that elected them in the first place. It's horrible, and we keep on doing it to ourselves.
Yeah, it's insane. And this is American politics. Everything is for sale. It's people buy and sell, and the ordinary people are like. And by the way, I think it's consistent with the idea of Friedrich Nietzsche that described the masses as the herd. They are the herd. Uneducated, slow, stupid, have no idea of what the elites are doing, and the elites are a minority that is highly organized, and they're thinking, they're strategic, and this is why they always win. And you have the majority that only appeal to like emotions, and power, and for them, if 10 people say something, that's the truth. So majority of the people are not, I don't know, and I don't even think, I think I'm one of them. We're just stupid. And this is why the elites keep rinsing and repeating and coming back. And somebody's just going to walk up on the hallway and say, yeah, I'm going to support this because this is my conviction, this is my religious belief, so people support these leaders for different reasons.
Yeah, but you have to have a perfect mixture of uneducated, religion, and politics. That's how you run the show.
Yeah.
You the uneducated, though.
Yeah. Because they are largely uneducated and they are very gullible. They are the best. Just dump things on them and they're going to run after you. I mean, religion is another vehicle for mobilization, The use of religion, even in African societies, is exactly the same thing. People are largely stupid. They just wait for the next 4 years, line up. They tell them they're going to build, they're going to buy planes for all of them. Everything will be fine. The economy will go, will be the best ever. They're going to buy all of them cars. It's all a lie. And people believe that because it's pleasing. It's emotionally rejuvenating for them. People don't deal with practicalities. It's about the feelings. People always pander to their emotions. And anytime emotion gets involved in things, it's not always the best. There's this war correspondent from Russia that says something about President Vladimir Putin. He said during this war situation in Ukraine, some of the war correspondents, they go to the front line and they come to report, like they come and like conference or whatever, and they report. So yeah, if you walk into a room, if you have something to talk about, present it. Don't be too dramatic. Once you become too dramatic, emotional, or over dramatic, if you like, it's not going to listen to you. He wants to see evidence. He wants you to back it up with facts. And you don't have to scream or shout or be dramatic. And that told me like the mindset of some of these leaders that are like real men. And you can see the difference between that and the melodrama on TV about, this is crying. Oh, how come they did not do this? And people are always whining and complaining. But for the leaders, under pressure, what they do, they slow down. And this is why they are different. So if you have a leader in place that is very emotional, it's a problem. Welcome, World Peace.
Well, you put on a show, but if you're like, sending, planes to put holes in the caves of your enemy, better have a really good reason.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, I have.
you don't have to agree with
I have a
what.
theory that Iran let the United States bomb it. It's like geopolitical chess, man. Geopolitical.
You believe that Iran allow America to bomb it? No.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
No, I don't. Okay, here's the thing. I don't agree with that completely.
They
I think it all played out. It all played out and played into Iran's hand. I truly and genuinely believe that America made a decision and said, "Hang on, we cannot allow this to continue. What will be our own? We need to save face." So there's this theory of audience cost that the leaders of country, when they make a decision to carry out an action, or when they make a promise to their electorate or to their constituency, they cannot be seen as backing down. President Trump made it his campaign a promise and mandate that he was going to denuclearize Iran. And he said that to the lobbyists and those that gave him money. And the people were listening to him. And they were looking for probably a way for him to do it without really going to war, because he also said he wasn't going to go to war. So he had to find the right balance. Did the Iranians know that the Americans were coming? I think they did. Because from what I heard, they were communicating via the Omanis also, because Oman is another country that has positioned itself in the region, in a way that is able to talk to everybody. I think Oman and to some extent Qatar. So because of that, the Iranians knew that America was coming, and they probably took out some of the centrifuge or some of the important nuclear materials, and America bombed the hole in the ground. That is number one. Number two, the Iranians also found a way to put an end to this by, the show they did in Qatar, which is theatrical, by the way. Yeah, but the big elephant in the room is Israel. I mean, look, I don't know how America is able to, like, you have this wild kid in school that is very stubborn and punching people in the head, and the parents who have to come.
Only after his little sister got hurt. You're going to go with the schoolyard thing? Sure. Yeah, the kid's pissed off. He shouldn't have hurt his little sister.
Yeah, well, if the kid is making the argument that the sister got hurt today, legitimately, but if your sister got beat up in school, or they took the pencil from your sister, and you go and burn the whole classroom with all the kids inside, that's excessive. I don't think there's any excuse for that, to be honest. What do you think? And if it happens one time too often, then it becomes a problem. I mean, I see the reason why some of you in America, like, you see the reason and say, oh, well, we have to defend Israel, because you look around and say, hang on a second, all these Muslims running around in our country. And I live in Africa, by the way. I live in this part of Africa where, I tell you right now, I was born in a Christian Catholic home. Most of my siblings, my parents, like, oh, you cannot you curse Israel, you're going to be cursed. You bless Israel. So it's coming from a religious point of view. And you also have a group in this part of Africa called the Fulanis and the Tubu and Tuareg that are Muslims and Arabized people that are fighting with the native Bantu African ones that are mostly Christians. So you have this back and forth between the Arabized tribes that are largely Muslims and the African tribes that are largely Christian. I'm an African. I come from the African tribes group. So there is this natural tendency for a lot of people from my own clan or from my own grouping to say, yeah, we support Israel because the Arabs are not our friends. That's the automatic, that's the default setting. But for me, I see a different picture. Like, hang on a second, you have your conflict on your battles with the Arabs or the Arabized guys here, but you have to understand that Israel, in the scheme of things, they call it, I think it's, if you look at the works of people like Hans Morgenthau, and even classical realists like Niccolo Machiavelli, Thucydides, and so on and so forth. This is realist, this is Israel projecting power from the realist perspective in any sense. They are saying the only way, so basically the realism sees the international system as a jungle where everybody's fighting for self-interest. And the states are the primary actors or the main actors in international politics. That is one of the key tenets of realism. Secondly, it sees the international system as anarchic. And the most important factor for them is, they call it self-interest, or that states are rational actors, meaning they fight for self-interest. So that is what Israel is doing. And they're always making a case. Nation states can always make a case for their interest. And sometimes it might not really be morally right, it might not be even logical. But since they define it as national interest, this is the way they are going to see it. And you whip up sentiment and build up support through different means and say, oh, look at what happened during this time. Look at what the Muslims are doing to us. They want to chase us into the sea. That does not mean I should agree with it, because again, as an African, I also have my own interest. And the interest of Israel and the West is overlapping, not just on the Western Asian subcontinent or corridor, but to Africa. So it's not just me defending the Palestinians blindly like some of you think. Of course, if children are being unalived, I'm not going to stand with that. So there's the morality side of it, there's the humanistic side of it, but there's also the interest of me as an African, seeing the overlapping interest of Israel and America on the African continent in places like Sudan. I can explain to you what is going on there. Eritrea is another melting pot which is about to go up in flames. I see the conflict in Ethiopia, and if you look at it, all these same actors are there on the ground. And this is why I take exception to them. America and Israel are one and the same. And they are looking for the same interest in the Middle East like they are looking for in Africa.
I think people forget this is like a northern and southern hemisphere thing when it comes. Sorry, go for it, Red.
No, I think his internet is bad.
And let me connect to my Wi-Fi.
But yeah, all I'm saying is that the sentiment's the
Is that
same in
better?
South America.
Yeah. Go ahead, El Duda.
I'm just saying.
I want to touch on. Okay, Duder, 1 second. I just want, before we move on, I wanted to touch on one point. Israel's taken in thousands and thousands of people from Sudan and Eritrea. They live in Tel Aviv, right by the central bus station. I don't see why they. Are you saying that Israel has an interest in seeing those countries burn or go through?
Yeah. That's because you don't have an idea. You don't really know about the region like I do. I spoke with Aududa right now about geopolitics. So you spoke about number one, Sudan, and secondly, Eritrea. What is common with those two countries? Can you tell me? Well, those two countries are on the left-hand side of the Red Sea. Hold on. Those two countries have access to the Red Sea. And for Israel's security, for Israel's political power, and the influence of other actors like Turkey in the region, Israel needs Eritrea and they need Sudan. Well, the Sudanese government under Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, after Omar al-Bashir was pushed from power, you need to understand that Israel's pursuit of its geopolitical gains and objectives in the region goes back to 1955, after Sudan separated from Egypt. Egypt and Israel don't see eye to eye. And Sudan was among those countries in 1948 at that time with Egypt that stood against Israel. So what Israel did was to try to support the subversive elements within Sudan, and they supported the Anyanya rebellion in 1955 during the First Sudanese War, continued until the Second Sudanese War. So if you said you have a lot of Sudanese in Israel, who are the Sudanese you have? The ones from the south that are largely Christians, hate the Arab North, and the Arab North are the ones that control the port. So in order for you to subdue the North, in order for you to force the hand of Sudan to either normalize with you or not be your enemy, because Sudan is upstream of the Red Sea. And if for instance you put Sudan allows Russia and Egypt and Iran or whatever to put a military base on Port Sudan, that's a problem for Israel, because it creates a problem for them in what do you call it, on the Strait of Tiran. Secondly, Eritrea is close, basically close to the Bab al Mandab. The Bab al Mandab is where the Houthis are targeting, and the Yemeni Houthi are targeting Israeli cargoes or whatever is coming on. So for security purposes as well, the Bab al Mandab is very vital for Israel. So these two countries you mentioned, one thing in common they have, and right now if you see what is going on in Somaliland, the same thing. Israel is not really going into the hinterland per se, they are staying on the coast, and it's all for interest. So in the course of doing that, they are going to support one group over another group, and if there's war and the group the Israelis are supporting is having a hard time, they take them as refugees. In Eritrea, you see the Eritreans fighting in Israel as well. Some of them supporting what's his name, Isaias Afwerki, others don't like him. And Israel is accusing Isaias Afwerki of siding with Iran. In fact, they are saying that Isaias Afwerki and his people allowed Iran to use Eritrea to smuggle arms. They're using Hamas to smuggle arms through Eritrea, then later through I think Sudan and Egypt. They take them through the tunnels in the Sinai. This is what Israel is claiming, and this is how they had those weapons. So you need to understand it's about the politics of the region, and it's about the strategic thinking about interest of Israel. So it is not based on
super well versed on the politics.
Exactly. I've been to the region. I've spent time in Merowe,
Africa.
Yeah, I know the area very well because I've spent time in Sudan. I've basically worked with an organization in Darfur. So you're talking to a guy that knows the region very, very well. Sometimes some people come and say you're not talking about Africa. Well, this area is also that I'm talking about, the Middle East, that I'm spending so much time trying to digest information, is for me to have a clearer picture of what is happening in Africa. In fact, after this conflict, after this October 7th and whatever has happened, it has opened my eye more to understand the connections even further. Not like I didn't know before, because again, it's not just about I can discuss Indonesia with you today, and tomorrow we can talk about Haiti. This is what I do. A lot of people don't have this chance to talk to have this conversation with me, so they don't even know what I'm able to discuss. Sorry, I don't like doing the monologues.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Yeah. And Red Dawn, you were saying something about Sudanese migrants. So the ones you're seeing, they are from the south. And these are the ones that the Israelis supported during the war against the north. And finally, they had independence around 2011. It was a long drawn out war, first Sudanese war, the second Sudanese war. And if to the extent that Israel even went on to support some of the dissidents in Darfur. I'm sure you guys heard of the war in Darfur.
Yeah, these people actually, I've talked to a lot of them when I was in Israel the last time.
Yeah. What did I tell you?
Well, they've walked. Many of them have walked all the way from Sudan into Egypt, and then found some sort of way of coming into Israel.
Yeah.
And they're very appreciative of that. But the conditions that they were subjected to along the way, both in Sudan and then also in Egypt, were horrific. Even just Bedouins that would like chain them up and make them do, labor.
Yeah.
And like give them one tomato a day and like one bottled water, and like after so much time of working for them, they would cut them loose and let them leave. But like, it seems to be a region where there's not a whole lot of love for
Yeah,
what
you're
seems to
right.
be
It's a dangerous route. And this set of people you're referring to, again, I want you to understand the south of Sudan. So you have Sudan, then you have the south of Sudan. So most of them go through Unity State because there's Unity State. This is where you have Abyei. This is where you have the oil where they are fighting over. So there's oil in Sudan, but the port of selling that oil in the international market is in Port Sudan, which is in the north. So most of them move from the south and start going north. From north, which is in Sudan, they now go to Egypt. From Egypt, they go to the border, and this is where they seek asylum or find a way to go get to into Israel, if you like. So they
I
are
have a question.
mostly
Why
they are
are the
mostly Christians, and they are walking through a land where their parents and their grandparents fought with the parents and the grandparents of those people. They are walking through their land in order to get to Israel with the support of Israel, and they won't forget that. And most of them, some of people lost their parents. So basically, it's the animosity. And for these other guys, it's because the life is hard in the south that they are trying to go to Israel to work because they believe that Israel is their friend. And of course, the south of Sudan, they are quite a number of Muslims, but mostly Christians and animists.
why is it that I see more recently Christians being, having their heads taken off in Sudan, like 50, I think was the number I just read from a couple of days ago. Like what is that all about? Because I don't know a lot about it, and it just seems to be, I mean, that's a very terrible thing. Even if it happened to innocent Muslims praying in a mosque, I would not be happy with that.
Yeah, can you
What's
furnish
going on?
furnish furnish me with this report? I'd love to see
Yeah,
the
let me
place it
bring it up.
happened.
One second.
Yeah, because again like Sudan is a place I know. If you say something happened, you have to come up with the receipt. And you also have to understand that Sudan is currently in a state of war. So if it happened in Blue Nile or Kordofan or South Darfur, North Darfur, West Darfur, it depends on where it happened.
I
And
got a question.
I can easily explain to you why it's happening. There's no excuse whatsoever, but there's a lot of bandits running around with arms as we speak.
How come nobody talks about Chad?
Oh, of course, again, Chad is
Congo, my mistake
all
there.
right. So when you exactly, that's what I wanted to talk about. So I saw that stuff you spoke about in Congo, which is kind of very rare because I tell you right now, over 90 or 95% of Congolese are either Christians or like animists or like no, like mostly Christians, but some of them practice this hybrid of Christianity and local traditions. The number of Muslims in Congo is very minimal. So when that stuff popped up, a lot of people were asking questions, and this was during the period of the takeover of uh, what do you call this place? Is eastern part of the DRC, not
The
Not
Democratic
Kivu.
Republic of Congo.
Yeah, the Democratic, not Kivu and South Kivu. But this happened, I think, in the southern part. But this was during the period of breakdown of law and order. But of course,
Salam
there
alaikum.
have been a lot of fighting in that area in North Kivu and South Kivu for a long time because of the rare earth minerals in that place. So for different reasons, some people would take laws into their hands. And I also know that the LRA has also, not the LRAs, they call them the M23. M23 is a defunct organization. It's an organization that came out of the CNDP. The CNDP was a group led by a guy called Laurent Nkunda. And before that, because they disbanded around 2008 or 9, then the RCD before that. So these are like organizations sponsored and funded largely by Rwanda. And Rwanda, again, has been an ally and continue to be an ally of the West because they want access to the critical minerals in the eastern part of the DRC. I think Trump just helped them to do a deal recently in order to stop the whole fighting and hostility. So again, it's a lot of politics in between, and sometimes people use religion as a mobilizing, as a recruiting sergeant, if you like, and for other purposes. Welcome, Leah. How you doing?
What is it going to take, speaking on Africa, what do you think it would take for Africa to unite and put aside their differences and just, uh, have peace with one another? There's plenty of resources to go around. I mean, it's one of the most resource-rich,
Yeah.
mineral-rich areas in the world.
Yeah.
And
So if you're on the board of Glencore, and you have been taking these resources from Africa and made all your shareholders billionaires and millionaires, and yourself sitting on trillions. It's one of the biggest mining companies on earth. Other ones as well, like Rio Tinto. Would you want stability in Africa so you can pay the actual price and make less money? Or do you prefer exactly? So again, in these countries, the institutions are weak. Some of them are 40 years old, 30 years old. A lot of tribal guys, pulling up with arms and unaliving each other. So all you can do, it's not about the states. People think it's the United States. No, it's the interests within America that are fueling this conflict. And anytime it goes south, they say, well, of course, they lobby a lot of these governments and they sponsor them to come to power. So America will deploy the coercive apparatus of the state to offshores to defend the interest of another company and define it as national interest. France will deploy forces to Niger, for instance, to defend the interest of Arriva, also called Orano, and defend the interest of Total Energies and Orange. So this is what they do. So these multinationals are now at the position where they are eroding and pushing away the real power of the state. So the states, the coercive apparatus of most of these nation states are now being used to defend the interest of these multinationals. And I mentioned Glencore. Glencore, a company sits somewhere on the ocean in Switzerland, on the Swiss whatever. And who are the owners of Glencore? We don't even know. Maybe the big shareholders are in America. It could be BlackRock. It could be anybody. And they move around the world and push around people for their interest. So Africa is
doing something like that too in Africa right now.
Yeah, Africa is the easy picking. Okay, with the Chinese, I mean, any African. If you ask most Africans, they have a soft spot for the Chinese, and some of them are critical of China as well. But what you need to understand is that a lot of Africans see what China is doing, and they are saying, "Hang on a second. Yeah, we know you're coming here and building this infrastructure, but we think, and we know." Because of the precedents, that you are also here for your interest. You want our resources, and you want also to maintain your interest in the area. But the problem is that when we start hearing it from the West, people get apprehensive, they get defensive, they don't want to hear it. They say, well, even if the Chinese are doing, you in Europe and America shouldn't be the one complaining, because the Chinese have been able to build infrastructure in Africa. In 20 years, they've been able to do 3 or 4 times what the West have done in 150 years. So that's the problem. If an American leader comes to Africa, for instance, is coming to Nigeria, I already know what they want to say. They are predictable, boring, and there's the same line. Oh, we want to bring democracy and institutions and do this and that and human rights. That's the only thing they come to say, and when they leave, their companies continue with the exploitation. The Chinese don't get involved in our politics, which is very important. They mind their business. They do a deal with the government and say, we want this pit to mine, we want this, but we are going to give you railway and road and power and build schools for you. I don't think the Europeans have learned that, and they think it's still in the 50s where they can bomb and take whatever they want. A lot of these countries in Africa are waking up, and they prefer the Chinese style than the French and American style.
Yeah, I would say the Chinese actually have given them an offer that's a lot more generous than what the Europeans traditionally gave to the Africans, which wasn't. They never really gave much to them.
They
But
don't,
yeah,
they,
I would.
they
I
don't
would
give
agree.
anything. They don't get, and think about this, right? Kamala Harris came to Africa. This is why some of us in Africa know him. And during that election, even though we don't vote, like, that woman, please, should never be president. So Kamala Harris visited Ghana, flew from Ghana to Zambia. And Zambia is very rich in copper, in columbite, in tin, iron ore. They have a lot of rare earth, right? Just
Yeah.
like Congo. And then she flew in there, of course, because America, they are trying to build this Lobito corridor. Zambia is part of, and the American companies that are, trying to take resources out through the Lobito corridor in Angola to the Atlantic Ocean to Europe, and Biden and his people and some interest group got involved. So Kamala went to Zambia, and then she flew in to the airport and drove to the presidential palace, gave a speech there about the Chinese. What are you guys doing about the Chinese? And you're allowing them in your country and lecturing the leadership of Zambia about what they should not do with the Chinese. And people in Africa are saying, hang on a second, the airport she flew in was built by the Chinese. The runway she took, built by the Chinese. The presidential palace was refurbished free of cost by the Chinese. And America did nothing for Congo. The Europeans have done nothing but destruction and pain and intervention. And you go there and you give this speech about China. It's very sensitive.
She's an idiot. Yeah,
she is, and you can't blame her because this is the standard practice. Anytime the American politicians come to Africa, we know exactly what they are going to say. It seems like they are reading from, it's monotonous, it's slow, we think they are just stupid, they don't really understand what Africa wants. If you really want to turn off and desensitize Africans, come and repeat the same thing about democracy. Democracy, human rights, NGOs, strong. We don't want to hear it. What will you do? Technological transfer, road. These are the things Africans need. We don't need more NGOs and more human rights and all these theories from the sky. And anytime, because Africans are traumatized, anytime they hear democracy, it's traumatizing. Because we know what the idea of bringing democracy have done to Libya, to Chad, to Congo in the 50s. So anytime the West come and repeat the mantra of democracy, we think of bombs. Anytime the West come and start talking about democracy, we think they are going to bomb democracy into our brain. We don't see it differently. And for those of you in the West, no. It is not about democracy. It has never been about democracy. And I'm sure a lot of people in the West now are realizing that.
Well, Americans, we're not even a democracy. A lot of Americans that know the history of our country, we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic.
Yeah.
So,
but this
the
idea
word democracy gets overused by the American people.
Yeah. You know what a lot of young people in Africa are saying? They say democracy is an evil system, a satanic system created by the Europeans and the Americans to exploit the global South. Honestly.
Well, I would agree with the European aspect, but the founding fathers here in America, they wanted to avoid democracy at all costs. And that's why we didn't know for a little while as a country what type of government we would have. And there's a famous story about Benjamin Franklin walking out of the Constitutional Convention, and somebody asked him, so what type of government do we have? And he said, a republic, if you can keep it. And so there's many differences between a democracy and a republic, especially a constitutional republic. But not to get into that whole subject, I do hate when people even Obama went to Africa.
Oh
and
my
he was
God.
sitting there. He was telling Africans that they can't all have air conditioning. Not everybody's going to be able to have air conditioning. And it's like, why are you telling them that? That's the most, elitist fucking thing that you can tell Africans, is that they can't have air conditioning.
If you want to win the heart of Africans, we don't like people that talk. Don't say anything. Shut up. Just shut up. And so we can hear that, is building this solar plant, they're building this nuclear plant, they did a deal. We want to see action, right? We don't want to hear your noise. Don't come and preach. Just do something and walk away. And this is the difference, right? This is why the Chinese are succeeding. And I'm not even saying for a second that the Chinese somehow are benevolent, they are God-loving people, they want to help us because, no. But they are being just compared to what we've had in the past. And there's fairness in what they are doing compared to what we've had. And again, it's not just about the way they treat Africans. China will want to give you a loan of $1 billion, right, for railway. They're not going to give it to the government. They are going to be partners in that project. And this is why it's very important. They hold the leaders accountable to whatever, every single penny they give. by participating in the project and seeing it from the beginning to the end. So if you're saying that the Chinese gave you a loan in relations to, you want to build a port, for instance, they say, yeah, we're going to give you a loan, but we're not going to give you money to just stay in your palace and distribute it among your cronies, because at the end of the day, when shit hits the fan, the people are going to have resentment for China. They say, oh, China trapped us with all this loan and we didn't see anything. So they want it to be a reality on the ground. The French, the Europeans, and the Americans, through their institutions, what they do is they have this I think there's this book called The Confession of the Hitman. You can look at that and see how it entails. They know that these leaders in Africa are largely corrupt, lazy, slow, and they are weak. They can threaten them and push them around. They say, yeah, we're going to give you 1 billion. You have to take 1 billion in loan, but we want 2 oil wells in that regard. And this money, we'll just give you 40% of it and leave the other 60% in our banks. And you'll be able to get it in like 10, 15 years. That and already they already gave them, this is what they say, that the loan is already being disbursed. And I don't even know the method because it's very shady. We hear that there's some sort of kickbacks and whatever is involved in it. The Chinese don't do that. They don't do that. They have integrity. And if you hear, and we also see it in the way that they behave. You have Julius Baja, which is a German company. You give them the same project as CECC, which is a Chinese company. Baja will charge 5 times more than what the Chinese would charge. And the Chinese roads are better. I'm telling you, all this stuff you see fake, it's all lies. They are far more efficient, they are faster, and they do quality work. And the Germans, which is like the best in Europe, by the way, if the Germans are charging 4 or 5 times what China is charging, imagine what Britain, and this is why America cannot compete in terms of infrastructure and other stuff with China, because they are very efficient and they found a way to do things efficiently and cost effectively. And so China will build the same 10-kilometer road in a cost efficient manner in 1 month or 2 months, for instance. The German company will take 2 years and 1.5 years. And why they are doing that, instead of them to focus on it, they'll be going from one government office to another government office, lobbying for another contract. Yeah. So they corrupt the politics and they are slow and fat. They can't walk. This is the thing, the difference. And as an African, I shouldn't be saying that because we don't have anything either in terms of technology. But I look at the two. Why on earth would I get American contractors to do a road for me in Nigeria when China is going to do it at 4 times less the price, faster, 10 times faster than the American company? Nobody's going to give that American company contract. So again, this is
China's they're very efficient. And you look at pictures of like the New York subway system, and it looks like it's, like it's decrepit. It's been there for 100 years. It's never undergone any type of renovation. And then you look at a picture of a Chinese subway station.
Electric, fast, clean.
I mean, it's beautiful. It's like, yeah, it looks modern. The architecture is amazing. It's beautiful. They are here in America. They've taken all of the quote unquote infrastructure money that Biden put in, which was $1 trillion, and they spent $7.5 billion on making 8 Tesla charging stations. Just $8 billion on that. I mean, it's insane. So it's all about, at the end of the day here in America, I guess, who can get the contract and how much can they embezzle and kick back to the politician. It's very unfortunate.
Yeah, it's corrupt. So there's Professor Graham Allison. He wrote a work on the two-sided strap. It's a theory coined by Professor Graham Allison. He's a professor emeritus of Harvard. And he gave that example. He said there's a project in Massachusetts that's similar to another project in Beijing. And he said that project took 2.5 years to complete. And then 3 times or 4 times the cost and 2 times over budget. And they say, oh, well, we have some, bottlenecks. We have some, red tape, bureaucracy problems, and also
regulations.
Yeah, a lot of regulations. And apart from that, inefficiency basically and corruption. And he saw a similar project in China and asked the audience, how long it took them to do it in China. I think less than a week or something like that. It took 2 years. And this is why Trump and his people are pumping, I think, 150 billion. So you're basically pumping money into something that's not going to work, into cheap building, like building these naval vessels or whatever. China is building over 400 a year. America is building 5 or 6. Like, it's crazy. 5 or 6. I don't know whether the number is something like that, but 10% of what China is building basically a year.
Yeah, I think Trump is the only.
Yeah, but what he's doing is
president
it's
that
not
we've
going to
had
work.
that-
It's not going to work
it
because
probably- yeah.
it's trying to force people to
Maybe
start.
not.
He's trying to force people to start manufacturing, and I mean, you're going to force people to buy things at a very exuberant rate, if that's the right English word. You're trying to do projects, and after 3 years, you'll be out of office, and there's no continuity. Your system is obsolete. I'm telling you, the system. So there's no plan. For instance, when Jibao and Hu Jintao came to power, they had an 8-year plan, 8 or 16-year plan. The Three Gorges Dam, big projects, infrastructure. Xi Jinping came to power, similar 8 to 16 years plan. This is what the Chinese are doing. The model, you can accuse them of human rights and all this whining and crying by leftists in America, but at the end of the day, China gets things done. America does not. America, of course, America is this big, powerful country that control most of the financial institutions, and your parents and grandparents have built this wonderful political and economic infrastructure for you, and petrodollar, the SWIFT system. I mean, this is the only thing that is your saving grace at this point, because everything goes centrally through those infrastructure that you have created, because you emerged as a superpower after the Second World War. But if you take that away from this if you take away the supranational institutions that you have and control, it's gone. And what you're backing that up with is your military power. So basically, everybody have to go through the dollar system, and that's what's making you rich. So even though you think debt is a burden, it's not really a burden for America. They just go to the Federal Reserve, say, how much do we need? 1 trillion more. Go and log some wood and print out more money. Yeah, even if you have 1 trillion, for instance, 1 trillion in US military budget, and what they can do with 1 trillion is what is China can do with that 200 billion or 100 billion. Conduit pipe is all scam. Honestly, I don't know. And you have all these aircraft carriers that you think. I look at this war between Russia and Ukraine, and I'm really scared. If America is pushed, I don't know what they will do in the Asian Pacific, because those giant aircraft carriers, of these naval drones. So basically, one of them, the Chinese are building some of. Yeah, just tiny boats that can come and sink that aircraft carrier that costs 100 billion or whatever to build. Right?
The drone thing is insane. Yeah, the drones.
It is crazy.
It's changing everything.
Are you following the conflict between Russia and Ukraine? The most important. Oh, you say Ukraine is. Oh, you say Ukraine has the advantage. No, you're referring to
the drones.
Okay, so I'm telling you now. Even some of the Russian analysts are saying that Ukraine has the edge, because in terms of particularly the ability to slow down the Russians. I mean, they're giving them that because they couldn't believe how the Ukrainians were able to organize and slow down the Russians. But the drones, oh my God. And you know where these drones are coming from?
China.
No, the Ukrainian drones.
Oh, the Ukrainian drones? Well, I believe that they're making a lot of them there themselves.
They're not. No, nobody's making anything.
Oh,
most of the even the Americans are not making it. I'm telling you. Most of the components, like your switchblade and all of that, all the components are cheap. The most important components of the drones, most of these entities are doing, they're assembling the drones. Even the agricultural ones like the Baba Yaga that they are now using to plant mines, the components are coming from China, Russia, Iran, Turkey. All the components for any kind of drone, that call it the FPV drones. The most important drone in this war is the FPV drones. They cost about $1,000. America makes a similar drone and sell them for $200,000. do contracts. America, and by the way, you know what they're doing cleverly? They go and get this contract for the State Department and build a switchblade. Some of them, there was a drone that the Iranians shot down that cost $10 million. The Chinese can build that with $5,000. And the most important component of this war is not the F-16, it's not Russian Navy, it's the drones. On both sides, they are bleeding each other with the drones. And all of China is selling it to both sides. It's terrifying. China can, like, and the way the Chinese are doing it is like, think about it. If China decides to squeeze the drone market, nobody's making these components that are using for this. What do you call this? This very popular drone, civilian drone in America. It's coming from DJI. All of it is coming from China, and America is like, oh my God.
They banned them.
They're trying to ban. They're trying to ban them now. Like, Jesus Christ, what the hell is going on, right? So China
is also making right now they're making their own airliner jets. So they're not going to be buying Airbus or Boeing anymore. And these jets are beautiful looking. They're very technologically advanced. They're not even going to need to buy airplanes from anybody.
They don't need anything.
As far as passenger airplanes, they're making their own now.
Yeah.
Biden
exactly. I think it's those aircraft parts that Biden put sanctions on them or prevent, from getting some of the components or whatever. And the Chinese, the thing is that necessity is the mother of invention. Anytime you sanction them, they go back to the lab. And even for the ship making and whatever, there's some advanced ship that America prevented them from getting. The Chinese went to the lab, and now they are the leader in terms of ship market in the world. And they do these things in a matter of 2-3 years. 2-3 years, even in space. So the GPS system you guys are using from the 70s and 80s, and the systems you have is obsolete. It's still working, but China now have the Baidu, which is far more advanced, have more satellites in space, and this is what Iran has switched on to now. I'll tell you a story, and I posted a video about this. I want you to go and look at that story. It's called the Yinhe incident of 1993. It was a day of humiliation for China, and the Chinese will never forget. So Yinhe, which is a Chinese cargo on the Indian Ocean, was bound for one country in the Middle East. They have no idea where it was going. I think it said it was bound for Iran. America said they had intel that it was carrying chemical supplies or chemical weapons or whatever to Iran, and then turned off the GPS, jammed this GPS signal that the Yinhe was using, and left it stranded on the Indian Ocean for 24 days. 24 days. And then prevented every other country around there from allowing it to dock. Then America boarded the vessel, took the vessel to the port of Jeddah, inspected the vessel, and they found nothing on the vessel. No apology, no restitution, and people within the, what's his name? I think it was the government of Bill Clinton at that time, claimed that, the Chinese are liars, so we don't give a fuck. We did this to them.
Bill Clinton sold them the technology to make intercontinental ballistic missiles.
And no, he did not. He did not. The Israelis took the technology and sold most of the technology to them. And this is the complexity with it, because you guys are friends with the Israelis, and they've stabbed you in the back so many times. They sold some of this technology that you didn't want it to, because the Russians will not sell it to them. People think Russia and China is somehow buddies. They don't have a lot in common. Russia is supplying. Do you know the problem? Russia is supplying arms to India, and India is an adversary of China. So they are not natural allies. And there's also the region of Heliojiang, which the Russians are claiming today. This is where you have the beautiful town of Harbin. You need to look. I know a lot about this politics, right? Not a lot of people talk to me, so they don't understand. I just see this African guy that hates Israel, so they never have this conversation with me. So they're not natural allies. Russia would rather work with the Europeans. I mean, they look at the demographic distribution in Russia. Most of it is lopsided to the West. They consider themselves Europeans. And 70% of Russia, along the Caucasus Mountain, on the east, they are somewhat Asian and
they're indigenous.
Yeah, indigenous people, basically in the taiga, in Siberia and so on and so forth. So the population there is very meager. So naturally, I think during the rule of the last one, Caesar, I forgot his name. I
Tsar
think
Nicholas.
is Nicholas. No, I know they built. He was the one that built the Trans Siberian Railway from Leningrad, which is St. Petersburg, to Vladivostok in the east, which is close to this town, to this region of China I mentioned, which is Heliojiang. So there's a train line that runs from the west to the east, but they're not really natural allies. So what America is doing by persecuting Russia in quotes, and all the sanctions and punitive measures driving Russia into the arms of China. And look at the resources that Russia have. They can give China now is buying energy at the lowest possible price that any other country can get. And China's biggest problem is energy. And you know why? For two reasons: Iran and Russia. And the West placing sanctions on this country plays into the hands of China. And China is just getting this energy free, almost free. So it's politics is not an exact science. It is not, and this is according
It's who
to
benefits who at the moment.
Yeah.
Like what right now, Trump is making deals, but the flawed system that we have here, where we have to replace the president every 8 years or every 4 years, makes it to where when a president comes in with these new initiatives, the next guy coming in, if he's a Democrat or even if he's a Republican, they're going to cancel it out and they're going to move their agenda forward, and it's back and forth, back and forth.
So
It's
basically,
just,
there's no continuity. It's
yeah.
it's haphazard. It's all over the place. And with the Chinese, you have from the days of Deng Xiaoping, they already had an economic model. They had a plan. They have 30, 15, 40 years plan, and the leaders step in, whether it's Xi Jinping, Deng Xiaoping, whether it's Hu Jintao, and whoever. And by the way, there's a lot of changes going on in China now that a lot of people don't know. Are you familiar with the politics of China? It's not a lot of people in the West know most of these things, by the way.
Somewhat, yeah.
Yeah, so what is going on now? There's a military guy called Zhang Yujia that is purging some of the top military guys that are loyal to Xi Jinping. And Xi Jinping, he's still there as the president, and they're trying to, I think they will have their CCP convention early next month. And there's a possibility of them trying to push him out because the old guard, the Premier Wen Jiabao, President Hu Jintao, who some people are rumoring his health is failing, he's dead, and so on and so forth. And because there was a period he had stroke, and during that period was when they made the changes. And if you remember, the Premier, after people don't understand, like the Prime Minister of China, who is the number 2 guy in charge of the economy, died last year, October, I think 1 week or so after October 7th. I forgot his name. And shortly after that, they removed the chief of defense staff. I think is I forgot his name. I used to remember these names.
Tough
So
to
that
remember all the names.
no, but at the end of the day, what I'm saying is that there is a lot of fluidity in that within the system as well. It's not a perfect system, and it's terrifying to think what can happen in China if people turn against each other for political reasons, and the impact it could have on the rest of the world. But I think they are working assiduously behind the scene to try to ease him out, and he's losing a lot of his power. They're purging most of
Because
the
he
guys
appointed him. Didn't he appoint himself as the
for the third term.
president? Yeah, for the
For
life.
the,
But
yeah, so
I
they
thought it was
arranged.
for the rest of his life.
No, that's not the way it works in China.
Oh, okay.
So basically, you have one term that is renewable for another term, right? And after Hu Jintao came to power, by the way, he was not the anointed candidate but he's a princeling. So in China, you need to understand those people that fought with Mao. They call them the princeling because they've been around the corridor of power. They see themselves as the ones that created this communist system and so on and so forth. So his father was one of the princeling. And there's another guy that was supposed to take over the reign called Bo Xilai. So Bo Xilai is also a son of a guy called Bo Yibo, who is also a princeling, by the way. And he did amazing work in Chongqing. You need to check up his profile. Bo Xilai, he did work in Chongqing, in Dalian, and he cleaned up. Dalian was a polluted city, and he cleaned it up. So basically, he was tipped to take the top position, and then the people on, I think on the former premier Wen Jiabao did not like him, and they framed him, not framing up with a scandal, because scandals happen in China like in another country. So his wife Gu Kalai was embroiled in the controversy where they assassinated a British businessman called Neil Herwood, and this was around 2011 and 2012. So the police commissioner or chief at that time in Chongqing, came and talked about it, and they put the guy in prison, I don't know, for 20 years or whatever, and his wife for life. So the wife was involved in an assassination of a British businessman, Neil Herwood, because of business fallout. So that was how he lost out and put him in prison. And Hu Jintao and his people have to anoint Xi Jinping. But the problem in China as well is they said during the last days of Hu Jintao, who was the last president, that he became a political lame duck. So in order to remove the that aspect of becoming a political lame duck, this is why he came with the third term. It does not mean he's going to be president for life. And people are suspecting that after this his third term, he's going to step aside. So you know what a political lame duck is? Basically, he was not able to implement most of his policies, because at that point he became a political lame duck.
Yeah. And I know that the Three Gorges Dam or whatever has
Oh my God, it's one of the man-made wonders of the world, and they're trying to build a bigger one.
The infrastructure is failing though, and that if there's like even an earthquake, small magnitude earthquake, that if that thing collapses, the entire river valley below it would just be would just drown millions of people.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying they're upgrading it, and it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable because it's enormous, right? I understand that, and I think you're referring to because it's on the upper side of the Yellow River and the Yangtze River. These are the two rivers that drive the Chinese economy. You need to know this. The two rivers, and these rivers are heavily polluted, by the way. I don't know, all sorts of chemicals, but these are the two rivers that drive the Chinese economy, because most of the industrial towns are along the banks of this river. The longest one is the Yangtze, and the second one is the Yellow River. And this is where they did the Three Gorges Dam. And by the way, they're trying to build another one in the Himalayas. So if you hear them, the fight they have with India in over Ladakh, which is again they're upstream of the Indus River. China is upstream, but it has a lot of geographical constraint there, because the depth is very small in respect of the area they want to control. North of the Tibet or something like that. Is very small. Kashmir. But they have Kashmir. You're referring to Kashmir, but I'm talking about Ladakh. If you pick up the map, you will see what I'm saying. That area in particular is called Ladakh. They also have some areas around Kashmir which they are they're competing with Pakistan. So, but the Chinese rather work with Pakistan because Pakistan is on the lower side of the river, and India is in between. And India is also playing Pakistan by threatening to dam the Indus River and put a lot of Pakistanis at risk.
Water from coming in.
They can two things they can do. They can cause famine, and they can flood Pakistan as well. And you know what monsoon season do to Pakistan every year? Even this year, millions of people displaced. This year already, it's happening to them every year. So if India decides to load up the dam with water and then flood downstream, it's going to be a problem.
Wow.
Yeah. I had a conversation with the Pakistani guy one day. It's like, Jesus Christ. How the hell do you know about our country? Because it's another area that South Asian
You're very
politics.
knowledgeable. You're very knowledgeable about I don't know much about the politics in China or even in India,
Yeah, India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, because you have this conversation with a lot of Americans, like, oh, Iran, the Iranian mullahs. Okay, what do you know about Iran? Well, we can start even from the Qajar dynasty and the end of the Qajar dynasty and the role of the Soviets. A lot of people, if you ask them, they don't know that Azerbaijan today was originally part of Iran. They do not know that Qatar, as it is today, it was a province of Iran. Who came there? It was the British that came there and balkanized most of these places. and the Soviets as well did in the 40s and the 50s, and created some of the Soviets controlled both Armenia and Azerbaijan, and created these borders that continue to constitute a problem today. The guide I just dropped, we discussed a lot of issues relating to Nagorno-Karabakh, Nakhchivan province, the role of Azerbaijan in the region, the Zangezur corridor. Yeah, there's so many facets of geopolitics. So sometimes even when I jump on the panel or I'm trying to have a conversation about the Middle East, and you see some guys like, okay, but you're not from this region. Why do you care? You don't know shit. Shut up. And I just laugh. I just laugh at them because it's just an emotional statement. They don't know what they're talking about.
Right. It's an emotional based statement, and it's an emotional appeal. Oh, well, you're not from there, so what
Yeah,
do you
you
know
have.
about it?
Yeah, what do you know about exactly? Arab.
Yeah.
So why do you? And it's not just Israelis, to be honest. Some Palestinians and some Middle Easterners that also throw this jibe, and yeah, because you're always on their face and like, what the hell is this black guy doing in our circles, talking about Middle Eastern politics? And I laugh because I know who I am. I don't really bother, to be honest. Sometimes I can go for months without even discussing politics. I just listen. That's the skill.
Right.
This is what God has blessed me with. I know how to listen.
Your ears are more important than your mouth, to be honest.
Yeah,
By saying less, you can actually say more. And also by, like I'm in sales, and a lot of salespeople think that the mouth is their biggest tool. Say
yeah,
stuff, generate interest by saying things. But when you listen to the potential customer and you let them talk to you, and you just sit there and you shut up and you let them speak, they tell you how to sell them. They tell
exactly.
you.
So
So a lot
less
of people have a
less is
hard time
more.
listening. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know what? I think it was what's this name of this famous English writer? Oh my God, that wrote Romeo and Juliet, and
Oh, Shakespeare.
yeah, Shakespeare. So brevity is the soul of wit. Yeah, it's you speak less, you say more. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Anyways,
Well, thanks for the conversation, my friend.
no problem. I'm gonna end the live stream. I'll probably I need to go play some basketball. I'll be back in a few hours.
Cool,
Talk to
man.
you.
Have
Yeah,
fun playing basketball.
yeah. You too. Bye.
Okay, God bless you.
You too. Bye.